Okay, so um, I have to be honest right off the bat here.
Oh.
We are looking at the Zenty ZT-137 today for this deep dive. And it is, well, it's basically a black metal plate.
A metal plate with 8 buttons.
Right, 8 buttons. And it costs about $350. So do you really need a quote-unquote universal translator
Hmm.
just to turn on a projector?
Well, you definitely could just use the plastic remote that came in the box. That is, if you enjoy the absolute chaos of modern meeting rooms.
Yeah, remote control fatigue is real.
Exactly. You walk into a conference room, there are 4 different clickers on the table, the batteries are dead in at least one of them.
And then nobody knows which input the Apple TV is actually on.
Right. So this wall plate is designed to eliminate that entire variable. It's about taking a really complex AV system and basically putting a straitjacket on it so it behaves.
So it's an expensive way to hide the clutter.
Yeah.
But the notes specifically call it a universal translator. That
Yeah.
sounds like marketing fluff to me. How does a wall switch translate anything?
It's surprisingly overqualified for a light switch. See, your standard TV remote uses IR, or infrared, which works fine at home, but it's strictly line of sight.
Oh, meaning if someone stands in front of the receiver, it just fails.
Precisely. In a commercial setup like a lecture hall or a sports bar, you just can't rely on that. So this Zenty unit supports RS-232 and RS-485 protocols.
Okay, for those of you listening who aren't, wiring server racks on the weekend, why does that distinction actually matter?
Reliability. RS-232 is serial communication. It's hardwired certainty. When you press a button to lower a screen via RS-232, the system sends a direct command right down a physical wire.
It didn't care if a tall guy is blocking the sensor.
Exactly. It's the difference between shouting a command across a noisy room and whispering it directly into someone's ear through a headset.
That makes total sense. You use the heavy-duty protocols for the critical stuff, but I did notice in the specs it still have IR capabilities. Is that just a backup?
It's for versatility. And it's not just standard IR either. The documentation highlights that it covers a massive carrier frequency, from 38 to 58 kilohertz.
Which means it can talk to the weird stuff.
Yeah, it's not going to struggle with finicky cable boxes or those niche projectors that use strange frequencies.
All right, so it talks to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to teach it how to talk. It has this one-touch programming via a mini USB interface. Is this drag and drop, or do I need a computer science degree?
It's somewhere in the middle. You hook it up to a PC, and you can assign specific commands to every single button. But the real power move here is the macro capability.
So you aren't limited to one button doing one single thing. A single press can fire off a whole sequence.
Exactly. You could program a button labeled presentation. You press it. The Zenty sends an RS-232 command to the matrix switcher to change inputs.
And maybe fires a relay to drop the projector screen down.
Yes, and then sends an IR blast to turn on the sound system. All from that one touch.
See, that's where the physical design gets super interesting to me. Because it comes with these pre-printed labels. On,
Yeah.
off, PC, video. It feels almost like a psychological trick.
How do you mean?
Well, if you put a highly complex touchscreen in a conference room, people panic. They freeze up. But you give them a physical button that just says on in, and they aren't afraid to push it.
That is the ultimate goal, invisibility. But, and this is a massive, but for anyone actually planning to install this thing, there is a trap in the hardware design.
I figured there had to be a catch. What is it?
It's a port sharing issue. The device is really compact, right? To save space behind the plate, they've physically shared the internal connections.
Okay.
Specifically, the first RS-232 port shares a connection with the second IR port, and the second RS-232 port shares with the third IR port.
Wait, so if I wire up my projector to that first RS-232 port, I literally cannot use the second IR port.
That is exactly the situation. It's an either-or scenario. You cannot have both active simultaneously.
That sounds like a complete logistical nightmare if you don't catch it early.
It is a disaster if you don't catch it. If you wire up your whole system, assuming you have all those ports freely available, you're going to be ripping cables out of the drywall.
You literally have to map this out on paper before you cut a single wire.
You do. It requires a level of architectural planning that a standard light switch just doesn't demand.
That detail alone probably justifies the commercial grade label it gets. Speaking of which, let's talk about the build quality. It uses a metal enclosure, not plastic.
Right.
Usually when you start adding commercial metal housing and serial protocols, the price tag explodes into the thousands. But this is sitting right around $356.
It's a very weird middle ground. It is incredibly expensive for a simple switch, but it is wildly cheap for a fully programmable control system.
Right, because it's often paired with those Wolfpack matrix systems, which are high-end, gear.
Exactly. So paying $356 to control a $10,000 video wall is actually a massive bargain.
Plus, the sources mentioned it comes with a 5-year warranty and lifetime technical support. I guess if you're dealing with that port sharing headache, having a support line to call is a big part of what you're paying for.
Absolutely. In the commercial AV world, the support is the product.
So, putting it all together for you, the Zenty ZT-137, it's simpler than a touchscreen, smarter than a remote, but requires a highly strategic map to actually install.
Think of it like a duck. Above the water, the buttons, it looks calm and simple for the user. But beneath the water, you've got this furious paddling of macro commands, baud rate conversions, and protocol switching that the user never has to see.
I really like that analogy. So here's a final thought to leave you with today. As we fill our walls with these physical panels to simplify our environments, at what point does the programming behind the drywall become so complex that the simple button is actually the most sophisticated device in the room?
That is a highly valid question. The simpler the interface, the harder the engineering.
Something for you to mull over next time you hit a light switch. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Catch you on the next one.